How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another video. And today, we are midweek in a game for the first time. So this is Game Week 26, I want to say, Part 2. I said that last week I was going to be doing a quick review of just some of the things I touched on in last week's Game Week, and then going into kind of doing it a Part 2 since it spans over 2 weeks. So some things to obviously note: we made a prediction for the Man City and West Ham game, which I'm just going to reiterate at the end of all the predictions from what we made from before. We're going to redo our clean sheet and differentials as normal, and yeah, we're just going to go over kind of like we normally do, as if it was a game week and some teams didn't play. So this is my team here from this would have been Game Week 25. So we end up getting 62 points. Like I said before, if you didn't watch it, watch the previous video. I go into a little bit more detail. But basically, we got the captaincy right. We basically played the best possible lineup we could. Henderson got us a billion points. So did Salah. Worked out pretty good for us. As for the current fixtures, so here's the current fixtures that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the 3 that were actually played. So this was the tweet that I made. So the City West Ham one, I'm actually just going to rewrite that down here. So that was 3-1. And yeah, we're just going to basically not look at that one so far. So let's go over it. So we said Everton would win, Watford would win, and Sheffield United would win. 2 of those were correct. We did not get any correct scores, unfortunately. So we get 1 point for that one. This was a draw, and we got 1 point for that one. So basically, Bournemouth could have potentially got something out of the game, which is quite interesting. Everton, people say that Richarlison played quite well, and Calvert-Lewin was pretty lucky to get the points. I'll take them regardless. And Brighton and Watford they both basically got the result that they didn't want, because Watford obviously wants to get the win so they can get further away from the relegation, and Brighton obviously wanted to get the win so they can stay out of relegation. So yeah, not too bad. There we got 2 out of the 3 results right. Clean sheet, obviously Sheffield United did not get anything. I'm just gonna scroll up to the actual. That's my team. Where's the previous game week? Nope, not that one. It'd be under points. So that's the current team points that we have so far. Let me just maneuver this down just a bit. It's 22 points. And I'll bring it back up the tool here. So Dean Henderson obviously only got 2 points. Didn't keep a clean sheet, so obviously nothing too good there. Mendy for City, he has not played yet, so we'll put a little question mark for there. Fleck, I do not believe got involved in the points. He did not. It was actually just Lundstrom. So Fleck obviously was not good there. And then De La Feu, I believe he did. Well, he didn't. It was Decore, the other D in the starting lineup. So unfortunately, with our picks here, we were quite bad. We got all 4 of them wrong for the ones that did play, which is quite unfortunate. But nonetheless, we continue on, and we'll have more differential picks or players to basically watch out for that should probably do well this week. But yeah, this is the team so far. So obviously De Bruyne still has yet to play. Kelly obviously didn't play. We knew that going into this game week. Lundstrom came off the bench. Sidibe came off the bench. Sidibe almost ended up with a cheeky clean sheet coming off the bench. That would have been excellent. Had Palace either scored before he came on, or after he or not scored at all, basically. And then Lundstrom obviously coming on and getting a goal was obviously quite nice. Calvert-Lewin goal assist, 2 bonus points. Fantastic days. So yeah. So far we've got Lundstrom played, Sidibe played, Trent's probably gonna play, and then we just basically need Mane to play, basically, because we know Salah's gonna play. Charles obviously removed the flag. It was just a precautionary measure. He'll definitely play tomorrow. But yeah, it's just Mane basically that we're looking at, and otherwise we'll probably see Greenwood come off the bench at some point to even get a point potentially. But yeah, so far so good this week. Let's go down to the fixtures again here. So yeah, the City game was supposed to be on obviously Sunday, February the 9th. It has been moved 10 days in advance to Wednesday, the 19th of February. So let's move the fixtures down so that we can see all the ones that we want to actually pay attention to here. Alright, so Wolves versus Leicester. I think this could actually be a tight game. Obviously, Leicester have been, a bit worrisome in recent game weeks. And Wolves have been on decent form. I think I'm just going to sit on the fence on this one. I think they could probably get a point off each other. That seems to be the most likely outcome for me. Southampton versus Burnley. Southampton have been in good form. Burnley have been picking up slightly as of late. I think Southampton will edge this one 2-1. Liverpool versus Norwich. I don't see anything but a Liverpool clean sheet and a pretty comfortable victory for the inevitable Premier League champions. Aston Villa versus Spurs. Now this could be an interesting game. Spurs obviously defensively not sound. But I think these are the types of games that Mourinho will want to pick up, and he'll say how important they are because of Man United and Chelsea are playing each other. Spurs are close to Chelsea. It'd be a chance to pick up points. Potentially both Chelsea and Man United if they draw. Obviously Leicester are playing Wolves, so somebody's got to drop points there. So these are the type of games that Mourinho will probably want to win for Spurs, and I think they will do 2-1. Arsenal versus Newcastle. I mean, Arsenal have been drawing a lot of games recently, but I think that Newcastle just aren't that great. They're good at home and quite resilient, but away from home they're probably not going to be too good. I see Arsenal edging this one 2-1. Chelsea versus Manchester United. Now, United had Chelsea's number this year. Obviously, they brought in Igalo, who has yet to play for them. They brought in Bruno Fernandes, who looked lively in his debut. I think that United will continue their streak over Chelsea's Lampard, and I think they'll end up winning the game 2-1. And then lastly, we made the prediction last week, but we'll just go over it again. I see no reason why City doesn't win the game pretty comfortably. So yeah, in terms of clean sheets, I mean, everyone would have bet at the beginning of the week that Liverpool will be keeping a clean sheet. Alisson as well for Liverpool. No, I mean, if you have a set and forget goalkeeper, he's probably quite good to have right now. Also, I would also mention McCarthy potentially could be a good bout, which I'll actually put as my. I think I could figure out how to spell his name because I can't remember how to spell it. So McCarthy, it's gonna look a bit weird. I'll do a lowercase c. McCarthy for Southampton. Yeah, and I just think it's, those two are the most likely, people to keep a clean sheet. But obviously Alisson is the easiest pick there. In defense, this week we had Mendy. We're gonna still stick with him because technically he is from our previous game week. But what I'll also do is put the caveat because Mendy was our last week pick technically, even though the game wasn't played last week. But I can also see the likes of somebody potentially from Arsenal stepping up this week versus Newcastle to get maybe a clean sheet versus Newcastle, because Newcastle are obviously struggling with goals. And I think that it could be the likes of Cedric if he's available. Could be something quite good for them. It could be their new center back could be quite good. It's kind of up in the air, but I'm actually gonna go with just Mendy just for both games. Honestly, I was thinking about it. I don't think any real defender other than Mendy probably has a better shot at getting attacking returns, because West Ham are just awful, or at least to pick one out. Obviously, you can make the obvious point and just say Trent Alexander-Arnold or Andy Robertson for the Norwich game. That obviously makes sense, but we'll stick with Mendy here. In midfield, now obviously for somebody who has to obviously step up to the plate and show how good he is, Bruno Fernandes is obviously the key highlight here. He is obviously Manchester City's marquee signing, and needs to do quite well if they want to be able to beat Chelsea. Nothing more to say there. And then obviously for forward, I think Jimenez obviously just comes to mind quite easily. Leicester obviously been dipping in form, and Jimenez seems to always score. And Leicester have been late, been leaking in goals in the latter half of the game. So could be something there to whereas Jimenez does what he does best and scores. I'm actually quite worried about him this week. Potentially looking at him for next week, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. So those are the fixtures. And like I said, this is the team that we currently have out there. So we chose to play Dean Henderson obviously over McCarthy. He didn't obviously keep a clean sheet. Unlucky there. Sidibe came off the bench. But the thing is that with Everton, Theo Walcott was taken off. So now potentially Sidibe comes in at right wing starting. We'll have to see. Lundstrom, even though he came on and scored, could also be on borrowed time with the, I think it's Sander Berg or Berger. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the new signing in midfield could potentially be taking Lundstrom's place. And then obviously, Grealish with his upcoming fixtures, not great. He has a blank. The only two real good ones is potentially Southampton and Newcastle, but for the rest of the season, not too great. Obviously, they have their game rearranged for Sheffield United, which was supposed to be in game week 28. So potentially someone to hang on to in the blank. But yeah, and then Traore, obviously, he's going up against Leicester. We hope he does well, and Jimenez doesn't. De Bruyne, obviously, hopefully going to play versus West Ham. And then Vardy, obviously, hoping to get back to scoring ways. And obviously, lastly, Mane, our vice-captain, hopefully back from injury. So basically what we want for the rest of the game week is we want Liverpool to keep a clean sheet. We want Mane and Salah to score a boatload of goals, specifically Salah, more so than Mane. We want Wolves and Leicester to be like a 4-4 game, so that they both drop points and United can catch up to them, which will probably be, no, obviously not. It's highly unlikely, but and we want Grealish to have a worldie versus Spurs and win. That would be quite nice. And obviously De Bruyne just scores a billion goals and put De Bruyne on penalties. I don't understand why he doesn't take them. He takes free kicks. He's probably the best striker, the dead ball striker from any range, apart from maybe Aguero from penalties. But even still, Aguero has missed his in recent times as well. So I think De Bruyne is the obvious choice for the penalties. For transfers, we do have 2 transfers, so we could potentially be looking to have a little bit of shake-up. So going into game week 27, we want to bring in somebody who's going to be good in game week 27 and doesn't have a bye, basically. So basically the teams that we're not looking at is we're not looking at City, we're not looking at Aston Villa, and we're not looking at, I believe, who are the other teams? I'm trying to remember now. It's City, Sheffield United, Aston Villa, City, and there's one other I'm missing. I can't remember who it is, to be honest with you. Anyway, it'll come to mind eventually, because I can't picture it from the teams here. But yeah, so basically those are the types of players that we are not looking at. So one of the obvious choices would be to bring in Raul Jimenez. Obviously, he's third in FPL points, just ahead of Tammy Abraham here. He has a great fixture versus Norwich. His Tottenham fixture away in 28 isn't bad, but you can still see him potentially scoring in that. Then has a really good set of fixtures up until basically the end of the season. Obviously, with the Arsenal at home, still a pretty good game. Sheffield United away might be tough, and then Chelsea away to end the season will be tough, but it could be potentially someone that we just keep for the rest of the season. Could we potentially swap out the likes of Jamie Vardy? Nope, this doesn't make sense because he's playing Norwich in 28, even though he plays at home to Man City in game week 27. Still could be a possible scoring point there because Vardy does like scoring against the top 6. Calvert-Lewin could potentially be replaced. Mind you, he just scored some goals, a goal and assist for us, so getting a lot of points. Obviously has a tough run of fixtures in here. Obviously only with Norwich away. So going into the next week, obviously, checking injuries and stuff, it could be something where we just basically alleviate all Everton players completely. Um, so what we may do is take out Calvert-Lewin, take out Sidibe, bring in Jimenez, and then bring in a cheaper defender. Could be the option. So if we go under defenders, we basically want someone who's going to be a bit on the cheaper side. We want somebody who is going to have a good Game Week 27 fixture, definitely. We want somebody who doesn't have a Game Week 28 fixture that's bad. And we potentially want somebody that has, a good Game Week 31 and 32 Game Week fixture in the event that Lundstrom also doesn't play. So that's kind of what we're looking for. So we want somebody Game Week 27, good fixture, Game Week 31-32, good fixture, and does not have a blank. So obviously we can't bring in more than one Liverpool player. We don't want to be bringing in Sheffield United players. Makes sense. We could potentially bring in a Wolves defender. That could be an option. So if we go check out, where are they? Wolves, way at the bottom here. So if we look at defenders for Wolves, if you're looking at the prices for them, you have Doherty at 6.1, Connor Cody at 5 million, Johnny at 5.4, Roman Saiz at 4.4, Willy Bolly at 4.7, Tillman at 4.0, and Burr at 4.0. The rest are injured for the foreseeable future. So I think that we could potentially look at Roman Saiz because of his price. He's been playing a lot recently. And we'll have to see what kind of lineup they put out against Leicester at home. Because remember, Wolves are still in Europa as well, much like Manchester United and Arsenal. Willy Bolly, obviously just coming back from injury. He played, obviously, the full 90 minutes against Manchester United. So if he's fit, then it's usually him. It's usually Connor Cody. And it's usually Roman Saiz in the back three. With Doherty and Johnny out on the flanks. So it could be something to where we put a little bit extra money and get the likes of Johnny to potentially swing in, potentially get some assist points or some crosses in. Obviously, Ballie's been out injured for a long time and has racked up. He hasn't been in since Game Week 9 basically. So you're looking at close to 15 games where he's out. And if you just look at Johnny, he basically pretty much plays every game, and Bali's only 20 points behind him. So maybe something to where Bali does pick up quite a bit of points. And he's also a threat against in set piece play. Which is something that could easily be attainable. So we could bring in the likes of Willy Bolly, and then basically our starting lineup for the week would be we would play McCarthy in goal because he is he's at in Game Week 28 versus West Ham, which is why we brought him in. Whereas Henderson has the blank in 28. We would then play Soyuncu because obviously he has a gaming fixture against Norwich. Liverpool, we would play all our Liverpool players at Watford away. Lundstrom obviously has no fixture there. And we would play Willy Bolly, which is kind of important why this last defender slot is important. Because Kelly is injured at the moment. And he does have a fixture of Brighton away, so we would hope that he could be back in the event that we need a fourth defender. So in terms of players that, aren't playing, we still have the issue where even if we take out our two Everton players who both have a fixture in Game Week 28 versus Manchester United, we still have this issue where, our goalkeeper is one of the players that's not playing, but we can swap him. Lundstrom won't be playing, and Kelly won't be playing if he's still injured. But we can still play a back three. Salah will play, Mane will play, Traore will play. However, Grealish and De Bruyne will not, which means that we will have to play our entire front line But obviously with Igalo coming in, Greenwood may be only coming off the bench. And we would potentially need some type of replacement for De Bruyne temporarily or Grealish temporarily. So that's where we have to kind of think: is it something where we bring in an extra defender, maybe get a 4.5 defender to bring in temporarily for the time being to make sure that we can have, one goalkeeper, 1, 2, 3, 4 down the back, and then 1, 2, 3 in midfield, and then 1, 2, 3 up front. Obviously, Greenwood's kind of a half a player because he could be coming off the bench or might not come off at all. It may be something where we look to see if we could potentially get another striker and maybe alleviate some money elsewhere. So let's just reset the team. So that's just one idea. Obviously, that's the disadvantage of taking out Calvert-Lewin and Sidibe at the same time, because they're both players that do have a fixture in that game week against Manchester United home. Obviously not a great fixture, so you'd obviously favor an attacker over defender. So we could potentially do something like where we could see if we can get in see if we can add Jimenez here and then potentially free up some money elsewhere, or potentially some type of three-way swap of some kind. So maybe we think that Lundstrom is just completely done. He's just done. And what we do is, let's just reset this here real quick. So basically we have two free transfers going into game week 27. We will have another free transfer going into game week 28. So we have 3 transfers in total, so we don't need to take a hit at all if we do 3 transfers. So what we could do is that going into this week, obviously we know that Arsenal away isn't a great fixture for Sidibe. We also know that Lundstrom might not play. So if we think, okay, well, let's try Sidibe first, because Everton obviously have the worst fixture, we could take out Sidibe, and we could just bring in, let's say hypothetically, we just bring in Willy Bolly because we think he might get a clean sheet versus Norwich. Fine. Then, the following week, what we can do is get rid of both Lundstrom and Greenwood. Add in Jimenez. And then we obviously are short a bit on cash here if we go for someone that expensive, which is a bit of a problem. Because basically by the end of it, what we want is, most likely, obviously with the really good fixtures Wolves have, we want Jimenez there. And we cannot make this change without doing, we can't do it without, alleviating some money elsewhere unless we drop the likes of Calvert-Lewin. Another possibility is that we see what Vardy's form is potentially like, because if that's bad, then we could potentially get rid of him. That's another potential option. So it could be something like where we, let's just reset this here. So let's say we make our 2 transfers. We get rid of Jamie Vardy. We bring in Raul Jimenez. We get rid of Sidibe because we know he has a poor-ish fixture. And we bring in the likes of Willy Bolly just because we want to have some, have some basic money available there. And then the following week, in a game week where, it's coming on game week 28, so the players we got looking in is, so we got McCarthy, we got Trent, Willy Bolly, Soyuncu all looking to play with potentially Lundstrom coming on, or Lundstrom and Kelly being out. Then we'll have Salah, Mane, Traore, Calvert-Lewin, Jimenez, and Greenwood, but Greenwood's going to be like kind of half a player. So what we could do is, depending on what Manchester United do, we could bring in, where's Manchester United? He's on the second page, I believe. We could bring in Igalo, who's a 6.5 million player. We could also look for a cheaper alternative, or maybe a slightly more expensive, because we can technically go up to 8 million. So if we're looking at forwards here, uh, we can check Abraham's fixtures. I don't remember them. 20 Game 27. Obviously, you don't want to play him versus Tottenham. It's not great. Danny Ings potentially. He could be a very viable option. Obviously, has Aston Villa at home in the game week 27. Um, we could just be a temporary placeholder for 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32, and then potentially get rid of him when he has Man City, Everton away, Man United at home. That could be an option there. So we basically bring in Ings like that. Could be an option. That could be something we could potentially do this week for our -4 if we feel that the -4 is worth it. And we still have 1.2 available, to whereas if we want to upgrade Calvert-Lewin to the likes of Igalo, could be something in that. Could be something in that. The other forwards, not really looking too happy about those. I mean, De La Fey would probably be the only other one. The only problem is that his his fixtures aren't great. They're not great. In the games that we want him, potentially he could be a single game week fixture in here potentially. Where we have a cheaper striker, and he's just going to be a part of a bench boost. Maybe that could be something of interest there. But yeah, Ings could be a viable option. Uh, you know, we just have to kind of see how things play out, because if Calvert-Lewin gets injured, or Vardy gets injured, or Saliba gets injured, or Ings gets injured, any of these players that we're talking about here could change things entirely. Obviously, Kelly being on our bench injured, he could be back this week, coming up. We don't know for game week 27 on the 22nd versus Newcastle. That could be potentially something there. Um, they said it was just a minor strain. He may have lost his place as well, so it could be a bit up in the air there. But the move I'm definitely favoring the most is obviously bringing in the likes of Raul Jimenez. He's the one that after starting game week 27, we definitely want him in there. So the most likely is that we'll burn both transfers um, in for game week 27. Um, and depending on what happens then will depend on what we do after that. So if we feel that we want to keep Calvert-Lewin one more week to see if he potentially scores, or if we think, hey, look, the fixtures are just that terrible, and he's obviously had his last good fixture versus Crystal Palace. Because if we look at the teams that when he's been playing on a regular basis, obviously Chelsea he did well against. Arsenal at home didn't do anything. City away didn't do anything. Um, let's see any other games. City he scored a goal, so seems like City, the bigger teams he can score against. But Spurs, he only played 7 minutes, so nothing too much there. Didn't do anything versus Leicester. United away didn't do anything. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Whereas if you look at Jimenez when he plays against like lower opposition, so let's take a look at here. So we got Norwich, Spurs, Brighton. So Norwich he scored. Spurs got an assist. Brighton got an assist. He's doing quite well for himself. And then Ings has obviously got a nice sea of fixtures here to play well with as well. So in an ideal scenario, I think the team that I would want going into game week 28 would definitely be something along these lines, if we could get it. But obviously we don't have the money um, to do it unless we got rid of a fourth player. That would be the ideal fixture, but obviously we're 2.3 million short. We would basically need a cheaper midfielder of some kind if we wanted to alleviate it. But obviously the alternative is obviously something along the lines of um, is here we go, and there we go. That's obviously a cheaper alternative, and we just hope that Greenwood plays or gets some type of return. And then obviously alternatively, we're just fed up with Jamie Vardy. We can just get rid of him completely. We can get rid of Greenwood. Um, we can get rid of Sidibe. Then we bring in Bali. We bring in Jimenez. We bring in where's he to? Ings, and then depending on how much playing time, we could potentially replace Calvert-Lewin for Igalo if he's doing quite well for United, and then we'll have a team that looks, something like that. But that would obviously require us to do 4 transfers. Obviously, 2 game weeks worth. We'll be able to tell if Igalo's doing well. As an example, we know Jimenez is going to do well. We know Wolves are quite resilient for clean sheets, but obviously bringing in Igalo after 2 game weeks probably isn't great because he has Everton away, Man City at home, Spurs away, and Sheffield United at home, which isn't great. If he starts starting during these parts and he is doing well, then we could bring him in for this towards the back tail of the season. He's a very cheap striker, could be someone that we could play potentially depending on how far United goes for the FA Cup. Could be a double game week for him as well for a cheap striker. Could be a bench boost option. There's all these sorts of things. But for now, we're just going to hang tight. We're going to see how the game plays out. We'll probably look to make decisions on Tuesday or Wednesday after, obviously, the Man City fixture. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for now. Let's just go back to the main team. So far we've got 22 points. Yeah, I really enjoyed this stream today. And you'll see the video up on YouTube. And if you aren't aware, you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitch, PilotFlame226. Hit the notification bell. Make sure to give us a follow on both platforms, and you can see when the videos go up, and you can also see when we go live as well. And you can potentially make the comments interactive in both platforms. So, hope you're all having a good Game Week 26. This has been Game Week 26 Part 2, and hopefully we'll have a good score to talk about on Wednesday evening or Thursday. So, hope you all have a good week. I hope you all have a good weekend, and we'll see you all at the end of Game Week 26. Take care.